Hi, I'm Grégory. Welcome to Occitanie, where we are transitioning to renewable gases.
French gas transmission operator Terega manages more than 5,000 kilometers of pipeline across southwest France. With a history spanning over 80 years, the company is now playing a pivotal role in enabling the region's future energy transition. Enlit On The Road visited one of its gas compression stations in Occitanie, a key asset in the decarbonisation of the network. Acting as an interface between two major transmission systems, linking the wider southwest to the rest of France, this station supports over 600 kilometers of pipeline infrastructure. In 2025 alone, it handled energy volumes equivalent to the annual output of 7 nuclear power plants with a staff of only 10 people, underscoring its importance for system balance and resilience. Looking ahead, the station is set to integrate biomethane, central to France's decarbonisation strategy and the region's low-carbon ambitions, which also include emerging energy carriers such as hydrogen. We hit the road to find out more about how the region's energy system is getting ready for a low-carbon future.
Grégory, thank you for welcoming Enlit On The Road to Occitanie. How does this gas network fit into the region's broader decarbonisation strategy?
Well, basically, the whole gas network, we need to talk about different gases. The first one is capitalizing on the existing infrastructures, like the one we are seeing right now. And the idea is to facilitate the injection of all the potential provided by the biomethane production to green the existing molecules that are actually transiting into the current network. Second molecules is hydrogen. We have this HISO project aiming at building an entire dedicated hydrogen network to participate to the decarbonization of the local industry. And the third one is carbon dioxide, where we support the decarbonization of large emitters like cement factories by helping them get rid of the last portion of CO2 molecules that cannot get rid of by any other means, by transporting them and storing them permanently on the ground to reduce their own activity.
Together with the Occitanie region, Teréga is harnessing local biomass potential to accelerate the development of the biomethane market. They have re-engineered the traditional unidirectional gas networks by introducing reverse flow stations. These enable excess gas from the distribution grid to be redirected back into the transmission system when local supply exceeds demand, avoiding biomethane curtailment. As a result, biomethane production is no longer constrained by local consumption limits. Project developers can scale multiple installations in biomass-rich areas, while producers benefit from the greater certainty over the volumes they are able to inject into the grid.
What is the role that Terega plays in terms of engaging with stakeholders to spur the development of the biomethane sector?
Well, Terega, aside of its traditional activity adapting the existing gas network to facilitate injection, also decided in 2021 to create a subsidiary named Terega Solutions. And the idea behind this subsidiary is to act as an active player to stimulate the emergence of all those green gas production projects. To do so, we developed a new commercial offer, which is the first one on the biomethane market in France, where we help all the stakeholders interested in being part of biomethane production units, and we accompany them all along the development phase of the project. So we basically finance, design, run all the feasibility and technical studies. We can go up to the construction of the site, and we own the site at the end. Now, the way we get remunerated is based on a rental model, where once the biomethane site is running, we do get a monthly rent that is integrating all the development costs that we invested during the development phase. What makes this offer really innovative, it lies into the fact that the development phase is the most risky phase of such projects.
One of the ways Terega is driving the development of the hydrogen economy is through the €1.5 billion HYSO project, which includes 650 kilometers of pipelines and a 500 gigawatt-hour storage facility with the capacity to transport up to 16 terawatt-hours of decarbonized hydrogen per year across the southwest. This infrastructure will enable bi-directional hydrogen flows, making it a cornerstone of the region's industrial decarbonization strategy.
The ambition of Terega by 2050 is to become a 100% decarbonized energy hub. Also, we are turning our strategy to new molecules, and basically hydrogen is one of the key pillars of this strategy. HYSO means Hydrogen Southwest. This is a huge project which has been recognized at the European level because 80% of the network has been labelized PCI, Project of Common Interest. We also created a dedicated hydrogen local association named H2AI to bring together all the local stakeholders interested in the emergence of hydrogen market development in the Southwest, to coordinate projects, to identify the specificities of what will be the hydrogen market in the regions, to ensure that these specificities are brought up at the national and European level.
What is the infrastructure that is needed in order to accommodate these green molecules?
Well, if we're talking about hydrogen, the future ISO network will need a similar compression station to transit and push the hydrogen to supply the users on the territory. So something very similar to what we are saying is about to be designed close from here to play the same role of balancing the molecules into the grid, ensuring security of supply for the users.
Terega has a third business unit dedicated to storage and transport of carbon dioxide molecules. This unit works with major emitters by addressing the emissions that remain after all energy saving, energy efficiency, and renewable energy integration measures have been taken. The carbon dioxide is recovered at the source of emission and transported to permanent storage sites or delivered to manufacturers producing fuels or synthetic chemicals.
We are running a key project with one of the major emitter of the Occitanie region. And this project by itself represents 40% of the total industrial CO2 emissions of the regions.
What are some of the key lessons that you've learned along this decarbonization journey?
Well, the first and one of the major lessons lies into the fact that we had to move from a 100% regulated company towards diversified activities that are not under the unbundling rules. And this is the major, let's say, cultural change in terms of competencies, in terms of structure. How do we structure our existing teams in order to reach new markets that we are not used to play in? We also need to better accept a higher risk profile when we invest into new projects, so that the real mindset to change, to move from a regulated activity to a non-regulated market to address new markets. And this is the first lesson, and it takes a lot of time touching every employee within the company to understand how to make this move in their day-to-day work. Second lesson learned is when you develop these new projects aiming at decarbonizing either our activity or our customers' activities, is to ensure that your project is fully integrated with their own goals. Meaning you need to have a close relationship with all the third parties that you have to work with to develop your own project. You need to demonstrate the relevancy of your project and to ensure that there's alignment with their own strategy and their own goals. You need also to demonstrate the value that your project will bring to the local community. And you also have to think of innovative business model so that part of the value generated by your project will be shared with the local stakeholders. Otherwise, you will face the risk of social acceptance, which might delays or even cancel the whole project. A third lesson is to embrace a holistic GSE strategy. We need to monitor and capitalize on all the data to build a strong action plan to identify what are the key actions that will help us to meet our decarbonization target. For instance, at Terega, by 2035, the objective is to reduce by 50% our greenhouse gas emissions compared to 2017. So you also need to define the right performance indicator about how you measure the environmental impact related to greenhouse gas emission that you want to address. One of our performance indicator is indexed on the amount of green gas that transit into our existing network. And this goes back to the second point. We need to facilitate and dynamize the emergence of the green molecules that will need to transit into our infrastructure in order to have a, let's say, fully decarbonized network operated in the long term, fitting with all the national decarbonization strategy, but also the regional one, considering biomethane, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide.
Thank you so much, Grégory, for sharing your insights with us today. For more insights, join the Enlit community.